Hey guys, when I last left you, we created a custom play controller. If you missed that episode, I would recommend going back and watching it. But otherwise, let me explain what we're doing today. When I started this series, I made a promise to myself. I'm going to separate myself from the thousands of other videos out there teaching you how to make a stealth game. So I custom tailored this series to teach you as many real world skills as you can get in Unity. And one of the most important things that you can learn in Unity is building custom editors. Because as amazing as Unity is, every editor has its limitations. So in this series, we're going to be building our own node editor to build our AI's behavior. It's going to be really fun and I'm super excited. It's going to take the mundane task of coding every state into a journey of learning and making awesome games. I'm going to give you a friendly introduction, so don't worry. I'm going to explain to the best of my ability, and if you have more questions, I urge you to ask me in the comments because I reply immediately. Okay, so you may be wondering, why do we need to make a node editor in the first place? Well, stealth games need complex behavior in order for it to feel realistic, and coding every single state can get overwhelming and pointless very quickly. So we'll build a simple node editor that changes the behavior of an object based on the conditions that you feed it. So before we begin this, I would like to tell you, just because we are building a node editor doesn't mean I'm skipping the whole stealth part. No, I have a whole lineup of videos ready, from field of view to pathfinding to security cameras, which will all be added as nodes to our node editor in future episodes. So subscribe to keep the original content coming, and let's get right into the video. Okay guys, let's get right into it. So as soon as you open up your project, I want you to create a new folder called editor. And as soon as you click on that, click create and add a C# script. And let's call this node editor, okay? And once we open this, we'll open up a new mono-develop window. Wait for this to load. And let's get right into the node editor. So I want you to get rid of all of these placeholder methods and get rid of this mono behavior, and then go up to here and add using Unity editor. Alright, and now we're gonna go down and we're gonna go private static void init or initialize, okay? And right next to the node editor, add this and an editor window. So that tells Unity that this is an editor window, and since we put the script inside a folder called editor, Unity will automatically pick up that this script is a editor window. Okay, so once we do that, we're just gonna go menu item editors and slash node editor. Okay, so what this does is creates a little menu item up here in Unity's menu, and it will say editors, and we click on that and we go down and it'll have node editor, and as soon as we click on it, a window will pop up. So let's initialize our editor window. So to initialize a window, you go editor window and you give it a name, and we're gonna go get window, and we have to pass in a type of what window, and the type is node editor, and we go true, and then we give it, pass it a name. So it should just be node editor for our purposes, and we go w.show, and that's it. Let's go down here and click editors, and you can see that node editor has popped up. You click on this and you have officially created your first custom editor. And I just want to point out something here. You can also turn this to false, and then you'll get a window like Unity's, but I prefer having my own little window here because it's much easier to resize and just position wherever you want. And yeah, it's great. Okay, so let's get back into the main coding. So another main function that we have to add is private void on GUI. And as soon as we get to this, I just want to add repaint method. Okay, let me explain. So the onGUI method is basically a update method except for GUI controls. So every onGUI, the UI basically of the editor window will be reset, and since we're adding this method called repaint, we're forcing it to refresh every onGUI update, because usually it won't refresh automatically on every ongoing update, and dragging nodes and everything will be really choppy and it won't look good. So if you just add this repaint, it will look good. Okay, now we need to create our first node. Okay, so what we're just gonna do is we're gonna go back into our editor, but we can't make actual scripts inside editor windows. So we're gonna create a new folder and we're gonna go call it node editor, and we're gonna drag this editor folder inside the node editor, and let's go into this and let's create a new folder called classes, and then double click on this and create a C# class called node. Okay, we'll double click on this and open this one up. Alright, so our node class is going to be our GUI node class, so basically what our editor draws. Okay, so this is gonna hold all the data of the node, the position, the size, the color, basically everything that is in a node will be in this. Okay, so basically we're just gonna draw a box this episode and draw some controls on it and drag it around, and that's gonna be this episode, and I hope that I taught you a lot by the end of this, and then we'll start expanding upon that on episode 4. Once we start adding our other controls, we'll start adding data to our node editor. So by the end of this series, we'll have a full node editor with many controls. Okay, so first thing you want to add to a node is we're going to call this public rect pos and public string just name, I guess. So this is just going to be our little placeholder node for now, and we're just going to get rid of this mono behavior. We're going to go in here and go using Unity editor. Okay, and we're going to go here and add a method called public void draw node. Okay, and we're going to have to just, that just can be empty. Okay, and what we're going to do here is we're going to go here and say new rect, and we're going to new vector2. So first we pass in the position. So the position, we'll just pass it somewhere in the middle, 100, 100, and we go new vector2, and now we're passing in the size, and we'll just pass in 100 and 100. That seems to be decent placeholder sizes, and name is fine. For now, we'll just pass in nothing. Actually, yeah, we won't pass in anything for now, and we will create a private void here, so called draw box, and this will be our placeholder box for the node. So I'll explain all of this, what I'm doing, just straight after. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say GUI.draw, GUI.box, and we're going to pass in the pos, and then the text we're just going to pass in the name. Okay, that's it. And then what we're going to do here is called draw box. Okay, easy stuff. So basically what's going to happen is every update on the node editor, we're going to loop through all the nodes and call draw node. So every time we call draw node, a new box will be drawn at this position. So basically it's just getting drawn onto the screen right now. It's just a bunch of boxes, and we'll get into the clicking and dragging and everything straight after we start drawing it onto the screen. Okay, and let's get right into the update method, I guess. So let's call this private void node loop. But in order for us to have a node loop in the first place, we need to add nodes. So let me just be able to do that right now. So private void setup header. So we'll just have a little header with some buttons in it in order for us to click and add nodes. So I always do this as a general practice whenever I start writing editors. I have these bunch of helper functions that can just help me create menus and everything. So I'm just gonna do private rect r, and then we're gonna pass in float x pos, float y pos, float y size, sorry, x size, float y size. So what we can do is we can just pass in r, and then we can just give it all 1, 2, 3, 4 values, and it should easily just return a rect. So return new rect xpos, new vector2 xpos ypos, and then new vector2 x size y size, and then we're gonna create another rect called O, and then we're gonna pass in a rect, and we call this R. So basically what the O function will do is it will return an offset from the rect that we pass in with values. Okay, so we'll call this float x off, float y off, float x size, float y size. So it'll give us an offset, so we don't need to calculate all the boring values. So both of these functions will make your life a whole lot easier, and it's really awesome to have. So x, we'll go r dot x, okay, plus r dot position dot x plus x off, and then r dot position dot y plus y off. So basically we're giving it an offset from the positions, and we'll go new vector 2 and just pass in the original sizes. Okay, so now we have two helper functions, and let's set up our header. So let's just pass in both of our methods into our on GUI. So we're going to pass in our node loop and our setup header. Okay, so we're just going to create a massive box across the whole width of the window. So let's give it another helper function called private float width, and then we're going to return it as a screen.width, and we're going to go private float height, and actually we don't need this. We can just say get return screen.width. So width and height are just variables that change based on the screen height and width. So we can just get these variables, which is pretty awesome. Okay, now let's set up the header. So we're going to create a new rect called header, and we'll call this r width and x positive 0 and y positive 0, x size of width, and the y size of, let's give it a size of around 60. So we just declared the starting position of the header, and the starting YA and X position, and the width of the header, and we just gave it a placeholder height of 60 for now. Okay, and now let's draw the header. So all we have to do is GUI.box header, and let's not give it any text, so we'll just go like that. And if we go back and we open up our node editor, we can see we have this massive box, and I say massive because it is. Oh my god, it's pretty big. We don't need it that big. Let's give a value of, let's say, 30. Cut that in half, and then we should see that it's looking a bit better now. Okay, so we just have this header now. Okay, now we're just going to draw some buttons in order for us to place some nodes onto the screen. Okay, so let's create a rect called place node. Okay, we're going to change all of this later. I'm just teaching how to draw nodes onto the screen and then drag them around. This is just a base class. We're going to build more nodes off of this class. So it's going to get pretty complicated in the next few episodes, but don't worry, I'll explain it perfectly. Header, we're going to pass in the header rect, and then the x offset, we're just going to go, let's say we want to go 20 to the side and just fire down, and we'll give it an x size of 50, 40 should be fine, 40 with the size of 20. Okay, and then go if GUI.button place node, and we're going to give it a string, and we'll call this place node. Alright, so basically what this will do is we'll draw a button around here that says place node, and it's really tiny. Let's go back and edit the width, and let's make this about 100. Okay, now as you can see, we're drawing a button in the offset by around 20 and then 5 down. And these helper methods work perfectly, and we have a clickable button here. Alright, so the way we made that button, by the way, was just saying if GUI button, and we pass in the position and some placeholder text. And we can add our method of what we want to do once we click it underneath here. Okay. Now we're going to create one of the main functions, one of the main variables in the game. We're going to go public list node and go nodes. And this is just going to be holding our nodes for now. And at the end, we'll have to serialize these nodes and take them into a file and then parse them and just take the data out and all that fun stuff. But for now, we'll keep it super simple. Alright, so when you click here, I want you to say nodes.add a new node. And since we don't have any constructors yet, it should just be new node. And we would have added a new node. Whoa, okay. Node loop, actually, let's pass in a constructor. So when we create a new node, let's call it public node. Let's pass in a string name, right? And then we'll set the name. We'll set the name to equal to underscore name. So we'll have to pass in a name here. So we'll pass in my node, okay? And then in the node loop, we're just going to go for int I equals 0, I is low, the nodes.count, I plus plus, and this will loop through all of our nodes. And we're going to go nodes I.draw node. Okay, that's how easy it is. We're just going to loop through all of our nodes after we create it, and then it's just going to create a bunch of nodes. So you won't be able to see the bunch of nodes, but you will be able to see that it creates one node because the other ones will be stacked underneath it. But if we click this, as you can see, it's created a window. You can't actually drag it yet, but we'll do that right now. But I just want to add another quick function next to place node. So let's go rect clear nodes equals O, and we're going to offset this clear nodes button to our place node, and we're going to give an offset of 120, and the Y offset will keep it as 0, Y size 100, X size 120. So how I got those values is place node size is 100, and so since we're starting at the position of place node, we need to make sure it's greater than 100. So we gave it 120, so it'll be 20 plus the size of the place node. And then we don't need a Y offset because they're all lining up horizontally. And then we just gave it the same height and width size. We're going to create another button called if GUI.button clear nodes. We're just going to pass in clear nodes as the name, and we're going to go nodes.clear, and that should get rid of all the windows on our screen. Okay, now we're going to go into the fun stuff of dragging. Okay, so like usual, I'm just going to region off this code and make stuff look good because this editor script is going to get pretty big very soon. Let me just sector off these. And we're gonna take this and put it above the onGUI method. I'm gonna take that into main GUI, and we're gonna call this node handling, and go end region here, and we're going to start. Okay, so the way we drag nodes should be easy. So let's create a private void drag node. Okay, and then what we're gonna do is give it an int I, and then here we're gonna go drag node I. So it's basically gonna check if we can drag this node and stuff like that. Alright, so let's create another variable called node currently dragging. So if we are currently dragging a node, this is gonna be the node, and then we're gonna call a bool called is dragging node, and we're gonna pass in false. Alright, so the way we're gonna check if we're dragging something, to check events on an onGUI method area like this, we're gonna get this class called event, and we're going to go e, and we're going to go event.current. So e will be the current event that's happening on the screen. Alright, so if we go e dot is mouse, sorry, no, if e dot button is equal to 0, right, so e dot the button 0 is your left mouse button. Okay, so that's your original mouse down, and e dot type is equal to event type dot mouse down. Alright, so what this will check, basically what this will check is if you click down with your with your left mouse button. Okay, but this is not actually what we want. We need mouse drag. Okay, so this will check if you drag with your left mouse button, which is super important because we're dragging. Okay, and now we'll say if is dragging, right? We don't want to drag another node if we're already dragging something. If you are dragging something, it's fine, we don't need to do anything. So we can just go here, and then is not dragging node. Alright, if you're not dragging a node, we're going to be currently dragging is equal to nodes I. So you see how we, oh actually no, we can't do that. We need to check if the mouse is actually inside of the node that we are currently checking. So let's go if nodes I dot pos dot contains e dot mouse position. Okay, so if the rect of the node contains the current mouse position, then we set this as the node that we're dragging. Okay, so currently dragging can be equal to nodes I. Okay, and we set is dragging node to true. Alright, easy stuff there. And we want to go down here and say if e dot button is equal to 0, and e dot type is equal to event type dot mouse up. Alright, and then is dragging node, we shall say currently is dragging node is equal to false. We're just gonna set that to false. Alright, easy stuff. And so basically what we're doing, if we drag on a node, we set that to the node that we're dragging, and we set this to true. And if we let go of the mouse while we're dragging something, we're just going to set is dragging node to false. And now we're going to do the actual dragging. So if we say is dragging, right, and we go into this little if statement, and we say if you are actually dragging something, we need to update the position of the node that you're currently dragging. So currently dragging dot position is equal to new vector 2, and this is where I get a bit confused sometimes, because we need to center the actual rect to be in the middle of the mouse. So let's go currently dragging dot pos dot position dot x. Actually no, it should be e dot mouse position dot x minus currently dragging dot pos dot size dot x divided by 2. I'll just explain this just once I finish this. Minus currently dragging dot pos dot size dot y divided by 2. Alright, I actually think there was an easier way to do that. You could have just done pos dot width and pos dot height, but I'm dumb. Okay, so basically what we're doing here is we're setting the position of the node that we're dragging to a new vector 3 of the current mouse position. So imagine this mouse, right, it's here, okay, and the node will be here. If I click on the node, it will snap to the exact mouse position, and the position of the actual node is in the corner, so it won't be nice. So basically we're offsetting the node's position by its size so that it's in the center. So the mouse is always in the center of the node while it's dragging it. Hopefully that made some sense, and hopefully I got this right. I don't know if I did. So let's just click clear nodes just to be sure, and there we go. As you can see, even if I click it here, you see how it snaps to the middle? That's exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm just clicking here and dragging it, it snaps to the middle, and I actually don't like that much. So what we're gonna do is gonna go vector2.lerp, and we're just gonna go currently dragging.pos.position, and then we're going to set the b vector to our end result, and then the time we're going to go set about 1.2f times time.delta time, and we're just going to test that. And as you can see now, when I drag here, you can see it like glides over to the middle, and you can slow down that. Yeah, I will probably slow that down. We'll set that to 0.9f, and the line is, if you can't see it, currently dragging the paused up position, we lerp it from the current to the new, and then we give it a 0.9f times time.delta time. It's just an original lerp, except you're doing it with vector2s and GUI elements instead. And we see that it actually is a bit smoother. You can still reduce the time if you really want, but it should be fine for now. And as you can see, we can move more than one node, and we can start to position them how we want. Alright, so, and as we can see, if I glide over other nodes as well, it won't actually bring them along with the mouse, because we are checking if we're already dragging something. So that's it for this episode. So we created a basic node editor, and soon next episode I'm actually going to teach you how to field of view, and then once we finish that episode, I'm going to teach you how to add field of view nodes to this editor. So as we add new elements to our stealth game series, we're just going to be pushing it into the node editor, and then we're going to construct one massive game with the node editor at the end, and it's going to be super fun. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please subscribe and like if you want to see more of this content, and I'll see you next time.